Hi, this video will show you how to design a new protocol and get it to run on SpeedyBreedy. First, open the SpeedyBreedy software by double-clicking on the icon on your desktop. Next, let's open a new protocol either by right-clicking anywhere in the protocols list or by clicking on New Protocol in the top right-hand corner of the software. The first thing you see when creating a new protocol is the title page. Here you have the opportunity to edit the details. You can change the protocol name, and I will name this protocol Sterility Test. The author is already filled in with the username registered on the computer, but that can be changed. What you are testing for can be a specific organism, or in our example, just contamination. You can also fill in which culture medium will be used and choose whether you want to allow the protocol to be run in one chamber or in both chambers. The latter option would be used for a test and a compulsory control. In our example, we would leave it as a single chamber experiment, but this can be changed again. You will notice that there is no save button, as the SpeedyBreedy software automatically saves any changes as soon as you click away. Now let's have a look at the first step. Each protocol is automatically created with 2 steps, as this is the minimum required to make a meaningful protocol. The first step is generally used to bring the sample to a certain temperature and create stable conditions before moving on to the second step, which then monitors the sample for any change due to microbial contamination. However, you can add or remove as many steps as you like by clicking Add Step or Remove Step at the bottom of the page. I will now rename the first step of this protocol to Warming Up. And you can also see that this changes it on the right hand side here. There is the opportunity to have a start message show on the display, obviously within the character limit. For example, begin warming up, but this is optional. Next is the rotor speed. Due to the fact that only one motor is driving the paddle mechanism for both chambers, the rotor speed must be the same throughout the protocol, as well as consistent between experiments run on SpeedyBreedy at any one time. We tend to use 60 RPM as our standard. The temperature can be set between 15 and 45 degrees, but SpeedyBreedy will only be able to cool down to 5 degrees below ambient temperature. For our test, I will set it to 36 degrees. 36 is human body temperature and suitable for growing many organisms. Temperature stability time is an option to ensure stable conditions before moving to the next phase. But we will use pressure stability instead, as it takes longer to reach than temperature stability. A time target is generally not necessary in the first step, as it is only the minimum amount of time SpeedyBreedy will spend on a step. SpeedyBreedy will not move on to the next step until all targets have been fulfilled. Pressure stability target and window are after temperature probably the most important targets in the first step. It basically ensures that the pressure is stable after the temperature target has been achieved before moving on to the monitoring phase of the experiment. Because pressure is directly related to temperature, a rise or fall in temperature will cause the pressure to do the same. Here we will use a stability time of less than 0.1 millibar per minute over the course of 10 minutes. We will leave the event detection value blank in the first step because event detection is monitoring change, and it would flag up an event in the first few minutes due to the pressure change created by a change in temperature. So the last thing to fill in for the first step is an optional step end message. If you tick the box Prompt User before ending step, then SpeedyBreedy will hold the conditions until the user presses the tick button on SpeedyBreedy. This could be useful if something has to be added to the vessel after it has reached temperature. So now let us move on to the second step. Where step 1 was all about creating the right conditions for microbial growth, step 2 is all about maintaining these conditions and monitoring for any change in pressure. So step 2 begins the same as step 1. You can change the name of the step or leave it as step 2. You can also have a start message again. As the rotor speed must be maintained throughout the protocol, whatever the rotor speed was during the first step will already be filled in for all subsequent steps. As a temperature target, we will use the same as for the previous step, 36 degrees. In this step we will use a time target to determine the total time the test should run. But of course, if a test is positive, you could turn it off long before it has reached the time target. For this test, I wanted to run for 24 hours, which is 1,440 minutes. The pressure stability target and window should be left blank in the second step. Instead, we will use the event detection value and window. I will want to be notified if the pressure changes more than 0.1 millibar per minute over the course of 7 minutes. This is a number I have derived from observing many experiments, and I have found it to be reliable. However, you can experiment with the number based on your conditions. Reducing the event detection window to say 5 minutes will detect the event sooner, but there is also a greater risk of getting a false alarm. Increasing it means that the event notification will happen later, sometimes by several hours. We recommend to always look at the graph to determine if a sample is positive. Once an event occurs, you can have a message flash up on the screen, such as event detected or positive sample. If you tick the box Event End Step, the step or the entire test, depending on if the event detection is in the last step of the test, will end when an event has been detected. We only recommend this option for experienced users. So you have now created a simple protocol. You can add or remove steps or copy and change existing protocols. If you wish to update the protocol on SpeedyBreedy, you have to make the changes necessary in the protocol stored on the PC and then drag it onto the SpeedyBreedy to update the protocol there. If you have any further questions or need any kind of assistance, please don't hesitate to email us at support@speedybreedy.com. Thank you and goodbye.